It is 6:30. I'd like to call this meeting of council to order and acknowledge that the city of Winkler is situated on Treaty 1 land, home of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and is the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that have been made on these territories and dedicate ourselves to a future based on respect for all peoples, moving forward to a harmonious, prosperous future together. Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular council meeting of July 22nd, 2025 be adopted. Mover?
Marvin.
Second?
Peter.
You've got the agenda in front of you. You will also notice that Councillor Fraze is not here tonight. He was not able to make this meeting. Do we have any additions or changes to our agenda past that? All in favor? That is carried. Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting of July 8th, 2025 be adopted. Mover?
Ryan.
Second.
Don.
You've had a chance to read them. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the accounts payable in the amount of $852,299.92 as approved by the Finance Committee be approved for payment. Mover?
Don.
Second.
Marvin.
As always, you see the check register attached. You've had a chance to review it. Do you see anything there that causes you pause or a question?
Finally one under $1 million.
It was kind of nice to see. So a bit of a celebratory.
Yes. Noted.
Excellent. All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the financial report and statement for June 2025 be received for information. Mover?
Peter.
Second.
Ryan.
Again, we mention this a fair amount, but I can't stress it enough how much I appreciate the report and the notes that are there, telling us the key pieces that we want to make sure we note, and we have a responsibility, obviously, to dive into it. But it gives us a very clear explanation of where we are. And I was very happy to see that on our general accounts, we're within budget on revenue, we're within budget on expenses, no surprises there. And then pleasantly surprised to see that our utilities revenue is up significantly, but our utilities costs remain within budget. So it's a good place to be right now. Another point, of course, is I think our tax bills went out a little bit later this year than we would have preferred, and that was due to the information coming to us very late. As soon as we did get them, we got them all out. They are all out, have been for about a week or so. People have had an opportunity to see them and prepare to pay those bills by August 31st. And lastly, from my point, and I'll certainly give everyone else an opportunity to speak, I was very happy to see that as of July 17th, we only have one property left that we need to deal with to hopefully be able to not have a tax sale. So that number has come down as people have found ways to pay those arrears and bring them current. Is there anything else that anybody else noticed that was of interest?
Happy to see that the swamp has their audit in with the auditor, and as chair of that board, I will take the heat for being late, but it's being worked on, and we'll try to do better next year.
Start penalizing you guys or something.
I don't know. It should
I
cost
think
somebody
that's
something.
it's a really important piece that you note there, Pete. We want to be a leader to the province to show that we take our responsibilities very seriously. And when some of our reporting entities aren't able to provide the information to us in a timely way, then our financial results are presented late to the province. We have never been, in my time here that I know of, late to the point that the province has had to be concerned towards us, but we haven't been able to always meet our requirements on time. It's good to see that you're actively on top of it and you're working it into the future, and hopefully a plan will come from that, because we do take that responsibility to file in a timely basis very seriously. But thank you for being on top of it, Peter. I appreciate it. Not seeing any further comments, all in favor? Carried. Takes us to our planning department. Be it resolved that the Regional Airport Steering Committee report be received. Mover?
Don?
Second.
Marvin.
At this point, there's been a really good discussion around that. There's some now consideration that we would move to the next phase and at least attach terms of reference and ask for a quote to see what that next step would look like. I would anticipate that that is something we would be supportive of. At this point in time, there's no requirement to spend any more money, but it's let's find out what it would cost us to go to the next step.
Yeah.
And just to add, that next step is proposed to be looking at a governance model.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, to me, sometimes I don't know, I think they're jumping the gun a little bit, you know, because they have to me, the big thing is the runway condition.
Right.
And, you know, then they want to do this next study, which is whatever, $50,000, I think it is, or another 50. And that will give us a condition report on the runway. But I said, can we not get some engineer for a couple $1,000 to go do you know, because if the runway is totally shot, which some people say it is, some people say it isn't. If it's totally shot, then let's regroup and look at, you know, what do we look at then? Like, you know, anyways.
Do I misunderstand the request now in the minutes wasn't necessarily yet to talk about the airport itself, the condition, and anything further? It was what would a potential governance model look like?
That is the next step.
But
I think,
but that, with that, gives you the next study is supposed to be whatever, I think they're guesstimated 50, and that's supposed to give you a runway report also. At least that was the one of the last meetings, but I wasn't at the meeting when they reported it to you guys.
And I should just confirm that, but I believe the request here was specifically to work towards a governance model.
the plan that Don is referring to is in the implementation roadmap for year one.
Gotcha, there it is.
After finalizing the governance model, then develop the airport master plan and initiate your runway improvements. So my understanding of that one is it does look at the runway and improvements required, but it includes
Thank
not just the runway, it includes the whole master plan.
Well, it does, but whatever. I just think the master plan might change if that runway is totally shot.
So right now, it's assumed that the location will be that? Because originally the discussion was,
The report that came back to us suggested that outside of a new from-scratch airport, the only option was to be in Morden, and for us to be able to find enough land anywhere that would allow runways in southern Manitoba wasn't easily achievable.
Yeah.
So the recommendation was, and Don, I should maybe let you speak,
but-
you were part of that.
Well, yeah, no, the location, like, you know, everybody's okay with the location.
okay,
But the problem is, a little bit of the problem is if that runway is actually shot, and if we can't expand, you know, you're kind of at the mercy of one landowner. Anyway, so there's lots of what ifs, you know, and but to me, then, when you go into a master plan, like,
yeah.
if all of a sudden we're moving over 1 mile, or the runway, like I say, if the runway's shot, and then there's hangars not on title, anyway, there's some, yeah.
Because I noticed that the flight path is right over Winkler on this side. So I was wondering if there was any discussion on
Oh, that
something
way.
like that.
I never,
Well,
lately,
one of their diagrams, it shows.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I was wondering, because originally when this discussion was started, I thought it was just like X and then we'll see.
and it's not, I still say it's not etched in stone that is, you know, gonna be the, not, yeah.
I think, and where I understand, and I may not fully grasp this, and it's important to make sure that we do, the implementation roadmap at this point in time is not a foregone conclusion. What I'm seeing here is that 2-year piece where there's finalizing a governance model and extending the standing committee mandate. I think at this point in time, we're looking for a proposal
That's right.
Yeah.
to study the
Yeah.
governance
Yeah.
model.
Yeah.
So we're not quite to implement roadmap yet.
Okay.
That's
We're
right.
prior
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah.
We're
Good.
now saying, should we get a request from Barry Rempel to say, what should a governance model look like? We're not yet at implementation. That's the next step afterwards, assuming that we have a governance model that work for the 3 municipalities and the partnerships that are there between the
Yeah.
flying clubs. So this is actually one step prior to implementation.
I was also a little disappointed at a 127-page report.
A lot of it's redundant.
I know, but
Yeah, and I combined they had 4 or 5 separate reports, and instead of giving you a bunch of attachments, I
appreciate
just
that.
combined it into one.
Right, yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
your fault, Jody.
Probably my fault.
So
I shut
to
down
be-
that, whatever.
To be crystal clear, today, we're not looking at support for the $50,000 implementation roadmap. We're looking specifically at support of going to get a quote and take a look at putting a proposed governance model in front of us, because we're not ready for anything further today. That number, we don't know what that number would be yet. Are we prepared to support Morden and Stanley to go back and say, we'd like to see what a governance model looks like?
Or the proposal for that.
Correct. What a proposal
Yeah.
for a government,
Yeah.
correct.
But, yeah,
And we would have, that would financially need to come back to us either way. Basically, what we're saying is, yes, go get a quote. The quote comes back to us, then we have an opportunity to say yay or nay. And if the numbers make sense, then we develop a proposed governance model that again comes back to the 3 municipalities for conversation and decision.
but we're, like, to me, I was saying we're 5 years minimum away.
Correct.
Like, why do we have to deal with the governance model already?
It's because we'll need to do those prior to those things. This is basically doing our homework. What we're
Yeah, but we're
suggesting is
putting
we
it-
have 3 different municipalities with likely 3 different thoughts. We have at least 2 flying clubs and multiple different user groups who will all have an opinion on. So it would be nice to have an idea of what this maybe could look like. At this point in time, there's no commitment to.
Well, no, I realize there's no commitment, but to me, it's just, to me, it's just we don't need to, I don't think we need to, we're years away from how this thing's gonna govern, how we're gonna govern this thing.
Prior to looking at master plans and runway budgeting and funding and any of those kinds of things, we do need to have some consensus in terms of how this will be governed.
But once the bill comes in at $10 million, we don't need a governance model.
Correct. Unless it also comes with a $9 million check from NAV Canada. But we have to show ourselves to be ready. What's happened.
Yeah, and that's fine.
In the
I'm-
longest time, though, there's nobody been investing into airports in forever.
Yeah.
But now, all of a sudden, communities like Verdun and other areas are finding money for airports because they're shovel-ready. And I think that's where we'd like to try to get to a place is, let's find out what it's going to cost. At this point in time, we're suggesting to the committee, go out and get a quote.
Yep.
No authority to spend money, go out and get a quote.
Yep.
If that comes back to this table and we're not comfortable with that number, we have an ability to say, not really interested in that number. I think I'd like support to have the group go back and get a quote. It may or may not make sense, but we at least will be able to look at it then with all the information in front of us.
So the quote, then, somebody will have to come up with the parameters of what you're asking for.
Specifically, what they're looking for is, for what price would you, Barry Rempel, come up with a governance model for us, a proposed governance model? So it'll be fairly narrow at this point in time. It's one small next step. But it's, yes, the group, and right now we've worked at Terry Penner, CAO of the Arm of Stanley, has kind of led that steering group. He's been the primary point of contact with Barry. So he would develop what that looks like, but again, a very narrow focus on this point. The way I understand it is, what cost would there be for Barry to provide us with a proposed governance model?
Well, we have to do something, otherwise this conversation has to end with this whole, right?
Ultimately.
We have to move forward.
Well, yeah, I think we move, I just don't agree with the route they're going. But anyways, that's fine. We'll get a governance model thing, and we'll figure out who's gonna run it and who's gonna be in charge, and then we're gonna finally get another report that's gonna cost us another $50,000, and then,
I'd rather spend 50 than a couple of million that we don't want to spend.
but we could spend 5 and figure out if the dang runway's in good shape or not. That's my
Yeah, but
point.
I think we need to put some kind of an agreement together that says this is how
How
we're
we're
gonna.
going to get that
how do we
information.
how do we go further from here,
But
right?
until we know some very strategic answers, no one's gonna agree on the governance model anyways.
And I will thank
But-
you again for sitting on that committee, and you will be reappointed to that
Maybe
committee.
maybe I won't be.
So you will have plenty of opportunity to ask those questions, Don. They're excellent questions, and they need to be asked, and that's one of the reasons that you are sitting there. It's because you're prepared to ask those questions, and we thank you for that.
Do you really?
Oh, yeah. Yes, we do.
Just don't try to fly on one wing.
I see General smiling and nodding.
Yeah, whatever.
There you go. Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Takes us to Community Services. Be it resolved that the South Central Regional Library minutes for the May 12th, 2025 meeting be received for information. Mover?
Ryan.
Second.
Michael?
Minutes are attached. Anything there that gives you pause?
Yeah, I think basically one of the things we were going through was some of the fundraising that was done. So you see that the book sale raised almost just over $18,000. So obviously that's a huge benefit to all the people that came out and bought books and volunteered for all of that. That was amazing. A tremendous amount of volunteers for that. So they also did their raffle, which was not me that won, but somebody did win, or a number of people did win the various prizes there. So congratulations to all of them. Yeah, that was basically the gist of it.
Excellent. Anybody have any questions? All in favor? Carried. That brings us to our hearings. Be it resolved that this regular meeting of council recess for the purpose of holding public hearings. Mover?
Marvin.
Second.
Michael?
All in favor? Carried. Jody, if you would help us with the rules for public hearings, I'd appreciate that.
Indeed. So we have 2 public hearings today. If anyone is here who wishes to speak to one of these public hearings, when we open that up, then we'd ask you to come to the mic and state your name and address, and then you can speak to the chair on the matter.
Excellent, thank you, Jody. So firstly, we'll do public hearing for variance number VA 2025-018 at 116 2nd Street.
Okay, the applicant is Isaac Wall, owners Isaac Wall and Helena Penner. As mentioned, 116 2nd Street. The variance requested here is to reduce the south side yard setback from the required 5 feet to 2 feet 6 inches. And this is in order to construct an accessory building, which is a detached garage, in alignment with the driveway access in the R3 residential higher density zone. And there are some notes there to council, just to explain some of the reason for the location to line up with the existing driveway access. And our engineering services did comment that the garage floor elevation will likely need to be 2 feet higher in the rear yard to match the side yard and to tie in with the driveway, which would need to be sloped. And they strongly recommended that downspouts flow to the front yard towards the street for the stormwater drainage. They also did complete an auto turn analysis, which wouldn't be necessarily critical for this approval, but just to take a look at, and have informed the applicant that it would be a tight maneuver to get into that second garage door. Again, that doesn't really affect the approval in this case. And just to note, finally, that we have received no objections to this application.
Okay, thank you, Jody. Is there anyone here wishing to speak to this application? If so, I'd appreciate you coming to the microphone. As Jody said, please state your name and go from there.
Yes, good evening. I'm
Good evening.
Radical, representative. Yeah, that's what we needed to go close to the property line. Otherwise, our house is pretty much in a way to get into
Mm-hmm.
to the garage.
Okay.
That's what we applied for, see if it's possible.
Okay, and you noted and heard all of the points that our city manager made.
Yes.
You've been aware of those, you understand what's
did.
there?
I did.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions of Isaac?
Yeah, well, just one, and as Jody already pointed out, it has nothing to do with this variation, but if you, instead of 2 garage doors, had 1 wide garage door, that might help you to be able to maneuver it easier, but it's just a,
Yeah.
that doesn't matter.
Yeah, reason why we wanted 2, with one bigger one during winter, the cold,
Yeah.
for us, we saw that's a reason to get less heat out.
Mhm. Yeah, that's fine, yeah, it was just a thought.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else for Isaac?
Looks like he can't back it up further to the back, so yeah, he's kind of
That's where he is.
stuck
Yeah.
with the measurements there, right?
There's nobody else in chambers wishing to speak to this? Don't see any comments online either. Council, any further comments before we close the hearing? I will ask then, be it resolved that public hearing for variation application number VA 2025-018 be closed. Mover?
Peter.
Second.
Michael?
All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that council approve variance number VA 2025-018, subject to city approval of lot grading permit. Mover.
Ryan?
Second.
Don?
Final thoughts? All in favor? Carried. Isaac, it's been approved.
Build away.
You're very welcome.
Start up your hammer.
We'll continue then for public hearing for variation number VA 2025-017 at 81 Stingray Bay.
This is applicant and owners Ben and Lisa Unra, 81 Stingray Bay. Variance requested here is to reduce the west yard setback from the required 2 feet to 1 foot, to reduce the west eave projection clearance to the required 18 inches to 0 inches, in order for an existing accessory building to remain in its current location in the R1 residential lower density zone. Notes to council explain a little bit of how this was discovered. This is what we would consider an existing non-conformity. And this shed was in place when these owners bought the property recently. And so, you know, an MSDW inspector noticed this when he was inspecting a neighboring property and just noted that it appeared to be on or very close to the property line. So they had some steps required to bring it into building code compliance. And also, you'll note in the supporting documents that there's the neighbor to the west who have provided a letter of support to have the shed remain where it is today. So they're doing their best in what they kind of inherited here to make it right. And I don't see that the staff don't have any issue with an approval in this case, and there's been no objections to the application.
Excellent. Thank you, Jody. There's nobody in chambers wishing to speak to this, and we don't see anybody online either. Council, do you have any thoughts? Do you see the detailed notes there in terms of the findings and in terms of how the neighbors are working together to hopefully have this shed remain in place? Are we prepared to close the hearing, or do we have comments we'd like to make
So
prior
right-
to closing?
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say is, right now, I'm trying to look at the aerial, is the eaves, do the eaves encroach onto the property
They
lines?
don't, they're on the property line.
Okay, they're on the property.
Yeah.
Because I was just wondering if they would, then we should get them to register on title, so the next owner
Yeah,
can, the next owner buys it and goes, oh, okay, now we know at least.
Right.
I took a drive by there, and the two sheds are very, very close.
yeah,
They will share rainwater.
yes.
They can fill up the same barrel.
I know it's been mentioned, but I'm appreciative that they have at least talked to their neighbors and gotten a letter of support for that. So
Yeah.
it makes it that much easier.
Yep.
Agreed.
Okay. If we're ready, be it resolved that the public hearing for variation application number VA 2025-017 be closed. Mover?
Ryan?
Second.
Michael?
Final comments? All in favor? Closed. Be it resolved that council approve variation number VA 2025-017, subject to the applicant obtaining an MSTW building permit. Mover?
Marvin.
Second.
Peter?
Last chance. All in favor? And that is carried. Be it resolved that public hearings be adjourned and regular council reconvene. Mover?
Ryan?
Second.
Michael?
All in favor? Carried. That takes us to questions from the media or public relevant to this meeting of council. Not seeing anything in chambers. Not seeing anything online. Be it resolved that this regular meeting of council be adjourned. Mover?
Peter?
Second.
Ryan?
All in favor?